I've got in the studio with me Yasrab Shah. Yasrab's the Director of Fundraising at Muslim Hands. Thank you for joining me. We've obviously heard the horrific description of what the situation is in Turkey. You are, a director of an aid agency based in the UK. You're working out there, you're fundraising out there. In terms of the immediate help that the Turkish people need, what are you doing in terms of your response to this?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah, thank you so much for having us on. It's mind-numbing, the level of devastation that's taken place. And whether we like it or not, we're seeing an acceleration of this. Especially, I mean, I've been at Muslim Hands now nearly 17 years. But I have to be honest, from even my own personal perspective, in my 17 years, this last year alone, I can't begin to tell you the number of emergencies that we're having to respond to. And they're not small scale. Yeah. They're incredibly large scale emergencies. So I'll give you an example. It wasn't so long ago we were talking about the Pakistan floods. We were. And even when this news broke, I was actually in Mogadishu. I was in Somalia responding to the drought and famine in the Horn of Africa. And I was incredibly upset to see what was happening to our Turkish brothers and sisters, as well as, of course, our Syrian brothers and sisters in northern Syria. I know that area well because of our aid work. And I want to go on record here and say that we have huge love and solidarity with the people of southern Turkey especially, and throughout the whole land of Turkey, as you said, the inheritors of the Ottoman Empire. And of course, our brothers and sisters in Sham, in northern Syria. What we found personally, as well as an organisation, we have aid partners with Turkey, the likes of who are semi-governmental as well as private, so the likes of AFAD. We've been working with them directly, and they're the ones who are in charge of the disaster management of this, as well as the TRC, the Turkish Red Crescent, and the Diyanet Foundation. And I want to go on record and say this as well. These are the same organisations that when there are disasters around the world, they're there. So when I went to Pakistan, for example, you saw the Turkish Red Crescent. When I'm in Somalia, I'm seeing Turkish charities. So I heard what Brother Yusuf said about how, and rightly so, they're not going to go around begging for that. But I think there'll be a tremendous amount of goodwill to the people of Turkey because of the incredible levels of generosity and support they have shown around the world, be it non-Muslim and Muslim crisis. And I'm a witness to that myself. And in terms of the needs, we had a comms team that supported our Muslim Hands Turkey office that's been operational for a few years. But honestly, they were just overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the disaster. And I know they gave the example of Bulgaria, or to take one from the UK, it's a size between Brighton to Newcastle. Can you imagine? That whole area was devastated by an earthquake. In the same way when we talked about Pakistan, we said it's the size of England underwater, a third of Pakistan. We're seeing a serious increase in man-made as well as natural disasters.
But can I ask you, in terms of, I mean, we've heard Yusuf Arim talk about how, it's a proud nation, and I've been to Turkey, and they are very proud people, very strong people, actually.
Absolutely.
In terms of the aid, having to be reliant on overseas donors, there's been a lot of fundraising in this country taking place, and people are very generous. Certainly, the Muslims are known as the most generous community in this country. How do you think you can best direct the money that's been raised to help relieve the immediacy of the situation there?
Our approach at Muslim Hands is always to be working with, even our work in northern Syria, it was through Turkish charities and the likes of AFAD, which is semi-governmental, and I think that's very important. We have to avoid duplication of aid. When the sheer scale of the disaster is on this level, it would be a crime that certain people get lots of aid and others get absolutely none. The only way you can possibly do that is to work directly with the Turkish government or with, in northern Syria, with the Turkish charity. So we are directly linked in with AFAD. Even our chairman is currently in Turkey, specifically in Hatay, where I was there just 2 months ago. So we are, at the moment, we're looking at the short-term needs, so providing hot meals. We're even shipping over 2,000 tents across from the UK to the region. But we are already looking at the medium to long term. So we're already in conversations with the governor of Hatay to help them rebuild what would be a container city. Because as Yusuf just alluded to, the houses are probably going to take at least a year to rebuild. Well, where are the people meant to stay in that time? So we're looking at containers which will be adapted into housing, and even the hospitals as well. And we will stand by our brothers and sisters in Turkey as well as across the border in Syria. These are incredibly noble people that we're massively indebted to as an Ummah perspective. So for us, it's an incredibly sad time, but a privilege and an honour to come to them in their hour of need, because there's a Quranic principle, Hal jaza'ul ihsan illa al-ihsan, isn't the reward of good except good. They've been good for years to the Muslim Ummah. Yeah. It's high time we now show generosity and care to them.
Yes, so could you tell me about how you've encountered other aid agencies from other parts of the Muslim world, and how are you working together? Give us a sense of what's happening on the ground in terms of as an agency.
I think in this disaster we are, there's a real hope in humanity. Honestly, and as Brother Yusuf just alluded to, we've been hearing that there are over 100 countries of the world represented in the search and rescue teams, sure. From Muslim and non-Muslim nations alike, as brothers in humanity, and some, of course, in faith, who have really, I think over 200,000 personnel have arrived just for the search and rescue side. And from our side, we've been in arms, brothers in arms, with our Turkish partners who we were already supporting to aid our Syrian brothers and sisters. Yes. So this is interesting that even in that specific region, especially in southern Turkey, they themselves are very much like the Ansar. They have been helping and protecting the Muhajirun of the Syrian people for many, many years. This is the Syrian civil war has been raging for over a decade. Who was housing, who was caring for those people? It was the Turks. And how I've seen it with my own eyes. The olive branch operation in northern Syria that is protecting the Muslims in northern Syria from the regime. Who's providing that protection? It's the Turkish government.
Sure.
It is, so meaning what I find interesting here is it's high time for us that we repay their incredible, noble, generous character. I kid you not. Imagine the scene. I'm in Pakistan, in interior Sindh, which is devastated by the sheer amount of the monsoon rains, and I saw tent after tent from the Turkish government. Wow. They have shared, I'm so proud of what the Ottoman Turks, or however they want to refer to themselves as now, what they have done. I know this firsthand from the areas we visited, be it in Africa, be it in Asia. And so for us, yes, we're for sure encountering international charities on the ground. But like I said, we coordinate our efforts with already our Turkish partners. So the sad thing is, or shall I say, it's a reminder really, that those 45 seconds or a minute, how destinies change. And there's a verse in the Quran which alludes to this, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And these are days that we rotate between people. And, we should never be complacent sat here in the West that, a crisis like this would befall us. May God protect us and our families. But I can tell you, these are righteous people who themselves were protecting and housing their Syrian brothers and sisters who themselves have been devastated in this account. And we're very proud of the fact that it's actually through our Turkish charity partners that we're helping Syrians in Syria, as well as in southern Turkey.